As the players are rushing through the castle, tension is running high, everything relies on that dice roll. And of course, they roll and they get a natural. Today, we're gonna go over some very common mistakes that I've seen in my years of playing D&D. These happen very often and are super easy to prevent. So let's get started. Hello everyone, Evan from MonkeyDM here. First thing, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're aiming for 10,000 subscribers, so let's get there. Now, let's go over the mistakes. First, death saving throws. Something that most people get correctly is that death saving throws are usually made without any modifier. It's a simple dice roll. If you get a natural 20, you come back to life with 1 HP, and on a natural 1, well, you're unlucky and you have 2 failures. You need at least 3 successes to stabilize, or 3 failures, well, to die. Now, let's go into what I've seen people get wrong. First, a death saving throw happens at the beginning of the turn, meaning that if you're lucky and you get a natural 20, you come back to life and get your whole turn, meaning action, bonus action, and movement. Getting a natural 20 is really good on a death save. In addition, death saving throws, as the name indicates, are saving throws, meaning that if you have a bardic inspiration previous to falling unconscious, because remember, you need to be able to hear to be able to get a bardic inspiration, and if you're unconscious, well, you cannot really hear, can you? So if you have a bardic inspiration, you can use it on your roll, meaning that if you roll an 8, you can add your bardic inspiration and perhaps turn it into a 10 or more, meaning that it's a success. One thing to keep in mind is that halflings, those little guys, are awesome because they get to reroll natural ones, right? Well, death saving throws are, as I said previously, saving throws, meaning that halflings, if they get a natural 1, can actually reroll it. But on the flip side, if you do get a nat 1 on one of those saves, no matter if you get any modifier from a bardic inspiration or something else, it's still a nat 1, and as per the rules, that counts as 2 failures. Even if you have a crazy bardic inspiration which pushes it over a 10, if the dice roll shows a 1, it is a 1 and it's 2 failures. Now, let's move on to something else. Readying an action. Oh, that one is going to be a doozy. Too many times, I've seen people treat the readied action as if it was a regular action, but it's not, it's very different. Let me explain how. To ready an action is to hold an action until a trigger happens, and then you can unleash it as a reaction. That is important. So, it means that you need a trigger to be set up to be able to launch your readied action. Because it uses a reaction, it has to have a trigger. And I mean have to. Without one, you don't have a readied action. This could be an enemy moving, an ally being attacked. Now, the issue with that is that the battlefield in D&D is constantly changing. The battle is evolving, which means that what you had set as a trigger, for example, an enemy moving, can very well not happen. In which case, you waste your readied action because the trigger isn't met. Now, another mistake that I see people often make is they think, oh, I ready an action, which means as my reaction, I use an action. And I have extra attacks, so I can use my extra attacks on my action. But no, you cannot actually. By the rule, extra attack only happens on your turn because you expend a reaction. It's not happening on your turn, meaning you do not get extra attack. You only get a single attack. Good thing is, it's the same for monsters though. They cannot benefit from their multi-attack if they use a readied action. Now let's get into something that gets wrong because it's quite complex, let's be honest. Spells and readied action. First things first, to ready an action means to concentrate on it until you expend it as a reaction. Yes, that means that even cantrips you need to concentrate on to be able to cast them as a readied action. So as you can imagine, that goes with all the complication that comes with concentration. So you cannot concentrate on another spell or you're gonna lose it, and so on. It also means that if you get attacked while readying your spell, you might lose it before you can expend the trigger. In addition, if you lose the readied spell, you also lose the spell slot that's associated with it. So be very careful when you're gonna use a spell with a readied action. Okay, now that I went in depth on how, magic is complicated with readied action, let's talk even more about magic, because I like to torture myself. Casting 2 spells. As per the rules, if you cast a level spell, meaning a spell from level 1 to 9, as a bonus action, as an action you can only cast a cantrip. The mistake that happens very often with new players is mostly with clerics, where they have this great bonus action spell called Healing Word that they use on an ally that needs health, and then as their action they want to use Inflict Wounds, for example. But that does not work. What they could use instead is Sacred Flame, a cantrip, and that's perfectly fine. The only exception to this rule is if you get multiple actions in a turn, through Action Surge, for example, you know, because you're a dirty min-maxer and you took some fighter levels. And you cast a spell as an action, and with your second action, you can also use it to cast another leveled spell. The funny thing is that there's a caveat to this, that if you cast any leveled spell as a bonus action, then your 2 action spells can only be cantrips. I know, it's dumb, but I don't make the rules. Now that we've talked about 2 spells at once, let's move on to concentration, which is a whole complicated topic of its own that is very important to get right because it's so crucial to the game. Concentration, that thing that you've probably been doing so far as you focus on this video. If you do so, give a like and subscribe because I love you and you're awesome. Congrats to you for staying focused. You're awesome. So, concentration. You'll notice that a lot of the complexity of the rules in D&D come from spellcasting, which is why if you're a newer player, I would recommend staying away from full casters and using more martial classes to start out. Many spells require the spellcaster to maintain concentration until one of 3 things happen. The spellcaster casts another spell which requires concentration or readies an action, in which case, well, as we discussed previously, you can only concentrate on one spell at once, so you lose the previous spell. Second, the spellcaster is required to make a concentration saving throw because they took damage. This is the most common occurrence. Or number 3, the spellcaster falls unconscious through damage or through the sleep spell, for example. So something that I've seen newer players make a mistake with is that they think, oh, I'm concentrating on a spell, which means I cannot cast any other spell. No, that's wrong. You can totally cast any other spell as long as it doesn't have the concentration tag, in which case, well, you break the concentration of the previous spell. That's it. Now, something that people get wrong a lot, which I don't know why, is simply when can you drop concentration? Because you can stop concentration at any moment you want. Meaning that, for example, if you've got an enemy rushing towards you and you're concentrating on a levitation spell to hold their ally in place in the air, you can drop the concentration as the enemy rushes by to make the ally drop on the other one. That works. You can drop concentration whenever you want, not only on your turn. Keep that in mind. And one last fun fact about concentration, let's call it, is that if you're hit by a spell like Magic Missile or Eldritch Blast, because they have multiple impacts, it means that you need to make multiple concentration saving throws, which is why Warlocks are great at destroying spellcasters, and one of the reasons why I love playing them. The other one being that I probably have some teenage angst issues that are not resolved. Yeah. Now, on to the last point. Natural ones. Oh boy. Natural ones are part of the game. They suck, it hurts, we don't want them, but they're part of the game and they really are a great storytelling tool. But there's one thing that people need to know, is that natural ones, by the rules, only affect attack rolls. Meaning that if on an attack roll you get a natural 1, automatic failure. If you get a natural 20, it's an automatic hit. Now, something that people get wrong is they think that if someone gets a natural 1 on an ability check, for example, on an athletic check, it's an automatic failure. It's not. Let me give you an example. My players were running away from an eldritch evil that they realized they really couldn't fight. As they run through the castle, in front of them the gate crashes down, blocking the path. The barbarian of the party gets up to it and tries to lift it. I ask for an athletic check. As the players are rushing through the castle, tension is running high, everything relies on that dice roll. And of course, they roll and they get a natural 1. But because the bard had previously cast Bardic Inspiration on the barbarian, which was quite high level themselves, well, the total of the athletic check amounted to a 17. The DC to open the gate was a 15, meaning that they did manage to open the gate, despite rolling a natural 1. Now, that made their escape a success. Let me formulate it another way. Eddie Hall. This guy, world's strongest man, Imagine him in his prime. He's on a road, and all of a sudden, in the middle of that road, there's a boulder blocking the path. Even if he was having a bad day, you know, a bad moment, having the flu or something, feeling a bit weaker than usual, if that thing was 100 kilos, I can guarantee you he can lift it even on a bad day. That's because he trained all his life to be as strong as possible. Same goes for characters. They trained, they have skills that they honed during their whole life, meaning that even if they have a bad day and they don't perform as great as they usually would, they would still be able to do amazing stuff that regular people could not do. So remember, as per the rules, natural ones on ability checks and saving throws do not cause automatic failures. They often result in a failure because probably the number total is going to be too low, but it's not an automatic failures unlike attack rolls. So there you go, those were 5 of the most common mistakes that I've seen in my D&D games. Let me know if there's a specific mistake that irks you the wrong way, that you see all the time and you say, makes you rage a little bit. Let me know in the comments below. If you want a video on how to play an evil character, it's right there. If you want to subscribe, right here. It was Evan, and I'll catch you next time.